Okay, guys, let us see the control flow of try and catch block today. We'll understand how the try and catch block will be executed. What is the actual control flow? So let us say that I have a main method. This is a main method. Just an assumption. Is syntactically not correct. Just for the understanding, I have just written the main method. And these are the statements. Just an imaginary statement. Statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, statement 4. Some statements are contained in the try block, and some of them are one statement is in the catch block, and these are the statements that is outside both try and catch blocks, statement 1 and statement 6. So I will give you some cases and let us understand let us understand the flow. Let us say that if the case 1, let us study case one by one. So the case 1 is going to be like, let us say that if there are no exception occurs, there are no exceptions, what are the statements that will get executed? There are no exceptions. What are the statements that will get executed? So we already know that after the compilation, during the execution, a main thread will be created, and main thread will try to get access to the main method. So let us keep this program very simple. So here, if there are no exceptions, what are the statements that will get executed, right? So the output is going to be what? Very simple. Statement 1 will get executed. Statement 1 will get executed. And I'm considering the situation where there are no exception occurs. Right? All the statements inside the try block will get executed. So second statement will executed. Third statement will get executed. Statement 4 will get executed. So here the catch block will be skipped. The catch block will not get executed because the catch block, the purpose of the catch block is to catch the exception. In this case, we are assuming that there are no exceptions. In the particular piece of Java code, we are assuming that there are no exceptions. In that case, what are the statements? What are the possible statements that will get executed? So when there are no exceptions, catch block will be skipped. So apart from the catch blocks, all the remaining statements will get executed, right? So the statement 1 will get executed, statement 2, statement 3, statement 4, all the statements in the catch blocks will get executed, and all the statements in the try block will get executed. The catch block will be skipped, and the statement 6 will get executed. It is going to be what? Normal termination. Normal termination. This is the case 1 with respect to try catch block, and we are assuming that when there are no exceptions, how the execution will be happening from the top to bottom. So these are the statements that will get executed. Only the catch block will be skipped. In this case, the catch block will not get executed because the purpose of the catch block is to, like, when it will get executed only when an exception occurs in the try block. Hope you are able to understand. So this is the case 1 scenario. So let me take the case 2 scenario. So case 2. In the case 2, let us assume that the exception is occurring in the statement 3. So case 2, we are assuming that the exception is occurring at the case statement 3. So let us imagine that in the statement 3 we have an arithmetic exceptions like 10 divided by 3, 10 divided by 0. Statement 3. That's an assumption. So how the control flow is going to be here. So again, when you start the program, the main thread will get created. Main thread will try to get access to the main method. Statement 1 will be executed. The control flow you are talking about statement 1 and statement 2 will get executed. The exception is occurring at the statement 3, right? So statement 3 will be skipped. Statement 3 is given in the try block. Right? Statement 3 is available inside the try block. Right? In this case, the statement 3 control will be like, so this is how the control flow will be. Statement 1 will get executed. Statement 2 will get executed. We are assuming that the exception is occurring exactly at the statement 3. So the statement 3 will not get executed. The control will jump to the catch block. From here, the control will jump to the catch block. So the catch block, in the catch block, we usually have the alternate code. But all an exception is occurring in the try block. The catch block is something that has an handling code. It is like if the exception is occurring in the try block, execute the statement that is available in the catch block as an alternate code, right? That's why you look at here, I am placing an exception deliberately at the statement 3. So statement 3 will be skipped and the control will directly jump to statement 5. So statement 5 will get executed and statement 6 also will get executed. But in this case, only 4 statements are executed. What are they? It is clearly visible. One is statement 1 and second one is statement 2. Statement 1, statement 2. Let me write this once again. Statement 1, statement 2. Exception is occurring at statement 3. It will not get executed. The control will jump to catch block. Statement 5 and statement 6. And here also it is going to be what? Normal termination, because the exception is occurring in the try block. Whenever the exception is occurring in the try block and when it is handled successfully, handling in the sense it is getting handled successfully in the catch block. So we can say it as a normal termination. Right? This is what the case 2 says. But if you observe one thing, it is skipping statement 4. In this case, exception is occurring at the statement 3. We are aware of that because this is our assumption. Exception is occurring at exactly at the statement 3. Right? As soon as the exception is occurred at the statement 3, the control is directly skipping to catch block. Right? It is not even executing the remaining statements in the try block. You must note this. The control is directly jumping to the catch block and it is not even considering the remaining statements that is in the try, because this statement 4 is skipped here. Statement 4 is not considered, it is skipped. Right? That's why it is very important, or it is very imperative to make sure that whenever you want to handle an exception, handle that exception specific to that instruction. For example, let us say that I have a try block. It is good programming practice to ensure that the try block is surrounded by the risky code, only the risky code. Right? If I have 1000 instructions in the try block, let us assume that if I have 1000 instructions in the try block, right? Just an assumption, I have 1000 statements. Let us say that 1000 statements in the try block. So it is not. If you are sure that one of the statements is a risky code in this 1000 statement, in this 1000 statements, only one statement is a risky statement. And if you know that already, you have to ensure that you are covering only that one statement in the try block. Because if you cover all the 1000 statements in the try block, if the exception is happening at the statement 1, the exception is happening at the statement 1, and if you are covering all the remaining 999 statements in the try block, right, and you have a following catch block exception. Do you think it is a good programming practice? Because however, the exception will be handled. I mean, the program will not get terminated abnormally because you are handling the exception. That is okay. But you are also making a mistake, which is you are also covering the, you are also containing the remaining 999 statements in the try block, which is not even a risky code. Right? In this case, what happens? Let us assume that the exception is occurring at the statement 1. Right? The control will jump to catch block from here. Remaining 999 statements will not get executed. It's not even a good programming practice. Right? Control will directly jump to class 1. This 999 statements will never get executed. And if you ask me whether the program is going to get terminated normally, of course it is going to get terminated normally. But do you think still the program behaves normally because it is skipping 999 statements? Internally it is abnormal only. Because even though exception is not occurred, the termination might be normal, but it is skipping remaining 999 statements because of the way we have handled the exception. That is why it is imperative. So in this case, how this can be resolved is very simple. Just put the risky statement in the try block. Right? Try block can have only one risky statement. Right? Followed by a catch block. Exception A. Right? After this, you can have the remaining 999 statement. This is how this can be resolved. Because these statements should not get affected because of this exception. Because of this exception statement 1, because when the exception is arising here, the remaining statement should not get affected. That's why you are separating it from the try block. Hope this case 2 is making some sense. Right? And let us take another case. Case 3. So I am writing the case 3 here itself. Case 3. Let us say that if the exception is raised at statement 2, the corresponding catch block is not matched. So let us understand this in a simple way. We will understand how the exceptions needs to be handled perfectly. If the exception is raised at statement 2, the corresponding catch block is not matched. What does it really mean? What does it even mean? Right? So let me take a small piece of Java code. So class test. I am taking a main method. Syntactically it is not correct, but just understand. Main method. So in the try block, I am creating an exception. The statement is exception statement is system.out.println 10 divided by 0. It's an arithmetic exception. We all know this. And the corresponding catch block is going to, let us assume that catch block is going to handle null pointer exception. Pointer exception. I have a try block that is going to generate what? Arithmetic exception. It is nothing but AE. A is nothing but arithmetic exception. If an exception is raising here, the main thread is going to look for the catch block that is handling the arithmetic exception. But in this case, we have declared a catch block which is handling null pointer exception. right? It means the corresponding catch blocks is not in match with the generated, not getting matched with the generated exception. In this case, exception will occur. So exception will not occur only if the catch block is going to handle the arithmetic exception. In this case, I should be declaring this catch block as arithmetic exception. In this case, the exception will be handled. Arithmetic exception, the exception is going to get handled normally because this thing is going to generate arithmetic exception. I need to make sure that the catch block is going to catch the arithmetic exception. But what if I created a catch block that is going to handle null pointer exception? This is not much. Even though we have declared a catch block, the catch block is something that is irrelevant to the exception. It's like, for example, when you have in some houses they have security guards. So security guards are responsible. They are actually responsible when the robbery is occurring in the house that is looking after. That is making some sense. But security guard is not example when the robbery is happening in the next street or to the neighbor's house. You cannot point. You cannot point him for to take the responsibility. He is responsible only if the robbery is happening in the house that is working for. He is not responsible for the robbery that is getting happened in the neighbor's house. Likewise, the catch block is responsible only if the generated exception is matching with the declared statement. If it is arithmetic exception, the catch block is responsible only to handle arithmetic exception. But in this case, we have given null pointer exception because this catch block is not going to handle the exception which is arithmetic because the declared catch block is handling only null pointer exception, right? So this is what it means. The exception is raised at statement 2 and the corresponding catch block is not matched. This is the assumption. So let us assume that if the exception is raised at statement 2, let us assume that this is arithmetic exception, but the catch block is meant for null pointer exception. Then how the flow is going to be? And again, the flow is going to be what? Statement 1 will get executed, no issues, and statement 2. This exception is raised at statement 2, right? So statement 2 will not get executed and the control will check for the actual catch block. Catch block is also not matching. Okay. So the program will get terminated here only. Statement 1 will get executed and abnormal termination. After which abnormal termination. AT. Normal termination. This is the case 3 study. Case 1 and case 2 and case 3. Right? So these are the 3 cases that one should understand while coding, while keeping the risky code in the try catch block. The risky code is kept in the try catch block. Make sure that just assume that for the case 1, if there are no exceptions, catch block will be skipped because the purpose of catch block is to catch the exception, but there is no point of catching something which has not occurred, right? So catch block will be skipped when there is no exception. When any exception occurred, catch block will be executed because it is going to have an alternate code. But we also we have to ensure that the exception is handled. I mean, the size of the try block should be as minimum as possible, as crispy as possible. You cannot keep 1000 statements in the try block expecting that only one statement is going to generate an exception. That is not a good programming practice. So try block should be as small as possible and as crispy as possible. You have to keep only the risky code in the try block, right? What if you don't? What if you keep all the codes in the try block? What happens? It is going to skip the remaining statements. Even though the program will get terminated normally, the remaining statements will be skipped. That is not a good programming practice. This is case 2. Termination is normal, but the remaining code is going to get skipped, right? The case 3 is something if the exception is occurred in the try block, but there is no corresponding catch block. I mean, there is no matching catch block, right? This is the case. We have defined an exception. I mean, the exception is for arithmetic. exception, but we have declared the catch block and it is meant for null pointer exception. This catch block will catch only the null pointer exception, not the arithmetic exception. In this case, again, termination is going to be abnormal, right? So that's why whenever we are trying to declare a try block and a catch block, we have to make sure the conclusion is in a nutshell, I can say that the try block should contain only the risky code. And the catch block should handle the exception, handle a similar exception, handle a generated exception exactly as the risky code. For example, if the risky code is generating arithmetic exception, the catch block should be declared enough to handle the arithmetic exception, AE exception. Right? This is how the code should be. The risky code, I mean the statements in inside the try block should be as crispy as possible, as short as possible, because you cannot keep a huge number of statements inside the try block. That will lead to the skipping of the remaining code that is falling after the exception. Okay. These are the three possible cases that one should understand while this is a control block, a try catch block. So these are the cases, case 1 and case 2, case 3. So this is all about the try and catch block control flow. And now we will also discuss about some methods that is available in the throwable class. Let me stop.